because I live in a political environment, I was ridiculed and made fun of because I wasn't able to process things sometimes or say things. So I'm so sorry that I'm sure many of you had to go through this kind of thing. How can we become more empathetic, more responsive, and more effective senators to provide the kind of support and services that anyone in these communities deserve?
Yesterday, Senator John Fetterman teared up and gave that extremely wholesome speech to his fellow senators during a Senate Special Committee on Aging hearing. Now, the topic of the hearing was providing accessible government technology for veterans, older Americans, and people with disabilities. Now, before Fetterman got emotional, he explained how after his stroke, he has become very reliant on technology in order to go about his day-to-day life. Take a look.
This is my iPhone. And this is a transcription service that allows me to fully participate in this meeting and conversations with my children and interacting with my staff. I had a stroke about 18 months ago, and I have lost my ability to fully process language. And I like to think I was an empathetic person, truly. But until that happened, I've raised to a whole different kind of level as well. And it's profound to know though that I never really considered that without this kind of technology, I couldn't watch television. And I can't imagine if I didn't have this kind of a bridge to allow me to communicate with other people effectively.
Now, as a disabled person myself, who has needed accommodations in the past, and I'm sure is going to need accommodations in the future, this type of representation at in Congress means something, to me personally. And as someone who works in civil rights law, specifically disability civil rights law, I write the reasonable accommodation requests. I've advocated every step of the way for disabled people to get accommodations. I know how, and I've gone through it myself. I know how difficult that process is, and I know how horrific people can treat you when they see that you do something a little differently or you need something to be done differently. And so to see him advocating from his personal perspective on this issue is important. I'll add that one of the things they're discussing is updating technology to assist people, particularly when it comes to accessing government websites. I think a lot of people, we take this technology we use every single day for granted, but I worked with a lot of people who were blind and used screen readers. And there are some websites they just didn't have access to. They just had no idea what the information on that website said because the screen reader will just say button and then nothing else. Or the screen reader will say, cannot read this website because they're just not accessible to people. So, and these people are relying on these websites to inform them about their benefits and give them crucial information. So for him to champion this issue, of course, this is a special committee meant to focus on issues like this, but to see him champion it, I think is really important. I've got some more, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on this before we get into the rest of it.
Yeah, I think what he has to do just to process conversations is fine. Doesn't strike me as alarming or anything. We're in a moment where two of the most powerful senators are visibly dying. Mitch McConnell is just freezing during speeches. Dianne Feinstein, I don't know what's going on with her or where she is now, but it's not looking good. He's of clear mind. He can participate. He knows how to vote. He knows how to perform the basic functions of the job. He just needs an app to process conversations. Okay, I'm sure everybody watching this knows somebody who has dealt with a stroke before. Hopefully all of them survive, but unfortunately sometimes they don't. We should be thankful that he made it. It's extremely dangerous, it's extremely scary, but we're all familiar with the effects of a stroke. It's unfortunately very common. So if he needs just an app on his phone to participate, okay, who cares? I'm more focused about the people I just mentioned, the reportedly many people in the Senate or in Congress at large who are senile or have dementia. We saw several years ago, a doctor on Capitol Hill told a reporter that he has been filling prescriptions for members of Congress who are senile or have dementia for years. And Ken Klippenstein at The Intercept just published a report recently that the national security state is saying the rise in senility or dementia in Congress is posing a national security threat. Those are much more dangerous threats to this country than a guy needing a nap.
Yeah, and I'll listen to the criticisms of John Fetterman and anybody's mental health and performance as it pertains to their actual job. As soon as those criticisms stop being so partisan based, like I have most people who don't like Fetterman are saying they don't like his stroke. Like that's it. Like they don't like him to begin with. They shouldn't point out that he has certain mental disabilities that only have to do with the processing of language. Because even with all that, he beat your roll boy, Dr. Oz. Like you guys lost to that. I don't know how good it makes you guys look in comparison. And as Jordan points out, like what is it helping him with? Hearing stuff. All the stuff he's saying comes from him, as opposed to most other politicians who get what they have to say from a lobbyist who writes it down for them and they read it like it's a teleprompter. So I'd rather have this setup than 90% of the other setups that people have and the 90% of other crutches when it comes to communicating and fears of transgressing against big corporate interests. I'd rather take John Fetterman looking down to make sure he knows what the person said so he can respond accordingly. All these same people that are mad at him for this don't hear themselves and how horrible and downright evil it makes them sound when they're like, that guy had a stroke, let's fire him.
And it's interesting because you never heard these conservatives say like about Madison Cawthorn, oh, he needs a ramp to get on stage. Is he capable of being in the House of Representatives? It is an accommodation in the exact same way. It is a way for them to access something that otherwise they would not be able to. I mean, and I think you make an excellent point about the Alzheimer's medication, Jordan, because and people should be having the conversation about whether or not they're capable of serving their duties, not someone who, we absolutely know is capable and just needs this piece of technology to be able to understand and have an easier time processing the information. But let's get into what the attacks on Fetterman were, because as you both rightfully pointed out, he has an issue processing. It affects his auditory processing abilities. It does not affect his mental cognition. He has been the subject of extremely vicious attacks from politicians despite that, who intentionally conflate that. But during his Senate run, as an example, I'm sure we'll all remember, Fetterman faced multiple bad faith attacks from his opponent, Dr. Oz, who he kicked his ass, by the way. Now, arguably the worst of those attacks came when the Oz campaign tried to hit back at Fetterman for mocking his now infamous crudité video. So this from from Rachel Tripp, Dr. Oz's senior communications advisor said this: if John Fetterman had ever eaten a vegetable in his life, then maybe he wouldn't have had a major stroke and wouldn't be in the position of having to lie about it constantly, which you would have to be a Republican to not realize how disgustingly heinous that comes across. Because as Jordan pointed out earlier, most people know someone who has had a stroke. Most people know somebody who is disabled. That line of messaging just comes off like you're a bully. You're a garbage person and a bully. And people age. We all know someone who's elderly, and God willing, we become elderly. We all are gonna face health issues. That is your base. Oh, I'm sorry, Republican Party. Old people is your voter base, and you are just insulting something that they will all have to contend with, not having a stroke specifically, but declining health or health issues. So I just can't even fathom the thinking behind this, or the lack of thinking, I suppose, that went into that statement. But it wasn't just the Dr. Oz campaign. It was just a whole vile scum, the baggery of right-wing hosts that, and personalities that were attacking him. So let's take a look at this.
It's sort of weird that Pennsylvania managed to elect a vegetable. I'm not discriminating against enabled. I'd love for John Fetterman to have like good gainful employment. Maybe he could be like a bag guy at like a grocery store.
He has a machine in front of him. It's not a closed caption like you would watch TV and want it to be quiet while you were working on something else and have the closed caption. No, this is a machine that actually helps his brain think through. Without the machine, he can't understand human conversations. He can't engage with people. So we actually had, and we call it a cyborg, you actually had man-machine merger on that stage the other night.
It's not about the person, it's about the party. It's not about the individual, it's about the group. And to prove it, they can even run mentally defective candidates who can barely speak and not only expect them to win, but expect you to accept the outcome no matter how transparently absurd it is.
Now, working in disability law, so many of the cases that I was presented with that I was working on, they're not instances of ableism like this. It is just structural ableism, right? It is an inability to access something, not because the person who owns that business or owns that apartment is like, I don't want disabled people living here, just that it wasn't accessible to the disabled person. So, hearing this type of ableism is jarring, that they felt so comfortable. And I mean, I see the disability discrimination that people in the community face every day, but this type of heinous ableism, the feeling comfortable saying that on TV, or as John Jr., being that ignorant in front of an entire crowd at CPAC, although I think being ignorant is maybe a prerequisite to speak at CPAC, or to hear him go on about how he's been merged with machine, he's no longer man but machine, and then lie about what literally is the same kind of closed captioning, just real-time captioning that you would get on television. I mean, it's disgusting. And who is it for? Who is this messaging for? Just bullies? Who are you trying to reach out to like this?
I think that's the answer. It's like the moment, are they all looking around going like, are we the baddies? Like you guys are, Steve Bannon was my favorite one. I don't know if you guys had your favorites, where he's like, I think Steve Bannon's gonna try to say the guy's a cyborg in a second. Because he's a man-machine hybrid, you gotta watch out. He's the one who knows that his audience is the stupidest. He's like, yeah, I'm here with Diamond and Silk, one of whom may survive to the election. And he's like, these guys say it's R2D2 up there. You better watch out, deep state. It's really stupid. But I think I have faith in most of America still, that they look at that behavior. The fact that Biden beat Trump, I have faith that most of America, when it comes down to it, looks at it and goes like, all right, I'm embarrassed of those people. I'm not embarrassed of the guy who, when I watched the video of him speaking, sounded totally normal and made tons of sense. I like that guy who is transparent about what he's going through and dresses like me, even on the Senate, versus these folks who someone who like Donald Trump Jr., who has had everything in his life spoon-fed to him, is gonna get mad at someone else and try to make me feel bad for liking that other person. No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I want to go back to Ray's point earlier about the base. Like, Republicans typically pull a lot of older voters. I mean, I don't know what their strategy was. I mean, we saw it was doomed, but it could present itself again. There are, millions of AARP members. They are the most powerful political group in this country. I don't understand it. And these attacks, as they continue to levy them, good luck. But on the transcription thing, I wish more things were captioned. I don't know if my hearing is going, but there are so many times I'm watching TV at what I think is a loud volume. I'm like, what did they just say? Here's the thing. Here's something you might disagree with. I want every movie in the theater captioned. For one, it'll help me. God. But also,
I agree.
Everybody could benefit from it. And people who might need captions don't have to go to a select screening. They can go to the movie whenever they want, or don't have to use a device to hear or understand the dialogue. I think every movie should be captioned.
Oh my God, Jordan! Good luck. I think Jordan shouldn't work here. I think he should have a job as a bag checker at a supermarket with that stupid brain of his. Thank you. Ding. Who was that?
It's 2 against 1 though, Brett. It's us against you. I fully support Jordan's point.
It would be so much better.
Oh my God, yeah, you guys should all have your own. That's why I think that separate but equal theaters. Hear me out. You idiots whose ears don't work, go over there and then and missed all the action looking down. And pristine earball people like me will all be high-fiving, drinking sodas, eating popcorn while you idiots are in another room.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members, because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us. Become a Young Turk.